Picture this. You grab a Neanderthal off the plains of Ice Age Europe, put him in a time machine and drop him in the middle of a Walmart snack aisle. He wouldn't be confused by the shelves. He wouldn't even be confused by the packaging. He'd be confused by you. Because somewhere in the last few thousand years, humans stopped eating like humans, and almost nobody agrees on exactly when that happened, or how bad it really is. Stick around, because point number 7 is the one that made scientists rethink what healthy ancient diet even means. And it involves poop that's older than the pyramids. Most videos on this topic tell you the same 3 things. Ancient people didn't eat sugar, they didn't eat processed food, and they were more active. Fine. True. Also, boring. And you've heard it 100 times. This video is different. Everything I'm about to show you comes from actual forensic science. Mummies, fossilized feces, DNA sequencing labs, not vibes about how cavemen probably ate. Some of this research is so recent that most nutrition content online hasn't caught up to it yet. By the end, you'll understand something most people never think about. It's not just what ancient humans ate that separated them from us. It's what's missing from us now that used to be there. Some of it, permanently. Let's start with the guy science knows more about than almost any other ancient human on Earth. Number 10. Otzi's last meal wasn't what anyone expected. 300 years ago, in the mountains between modern Italy and Austria, a man was murdered with an arrow to the chest. His body froze, got buried under glacier ice, and stayed that way until hikers found him in 1991. Scientists call him Otzi. Here's the part that doesn't get talked about enough. In 2018, researchers finally cracked open his actual stomach. Not his intestines, his stomach, and reconstructed his literal last meal down to the protein level. They identified 167 separate animal and plant proteins in there, and what they found broke a popular assumption. For years, some scientists thought early hair analysis meant Otzi was basically vegetarian. He wasn't, not even close. Roughly half of what was in his stomach, by volume, was pure animal fat, ibex fat, red deer, and einkorn wheat, eaten just 1 to 2 hours before he died. Researchers described it as a genuinely greasy, high-fat feast, the kind of meal that would have tasted like eating a stick of butter with a side of meat. Now here's where it gets interesting. That's not far off from a fast food breakfast sandwich in raw fat percentage. So if fat content alone was the test, an ancient human wouldn't be shocked by your bacon, egg, and cheese. What would shock him is something else entirely: the way that meat was actually made. When researchers studied the muscle fiber structure of the meat in Otzi's stomach under a microscope, they found something specific. The meat fibers were still intact and striated, meaning it had never been heated above roughly 140 degrees Fahrenheit, likely dried or lightly smoked, not cooked over high heat. Number 9. Ancient fat wasn't modern fat. That matters more than it sounds like. High heat changes the actual chemical structure of fat and protein. And modern industrial food is built almost entirely around high heat processing, frying, extruding, flash baking at extreme temperatures to hit a shelf life and a mouthfeel. An ancient human's fat-heavy meal and a modern fat-heavy meal are not the same food, even if a nutrition label would call them close. One was preserved by time and smoke. The other was engineered by a food science lab to make you keep eating past the point of being full. That distinction is the actual gap between ancient and modern eating. Not fat is bad, but we changed what fat even is at a molecular level. But the biggest difference between you and an ancient human isn't even in what's on your plate. It's in what's living inside your gut right now. And scientists only figured this out by analyzing something most people would never want to touch. We'll get into it right after this. Number 8. Your ancestors had gut bacteria you'll never have. Welcome back. This next one is genuinely one of the wildest findings in recent human biology, and almost nobody outside of scientific circles knows about it. In a 2021 study published in Nature, researchers extracted ancient DNA from coprolites, fossilized human feces found in rock shelters in Utah and Mexico, dated between 0 and 1000 CE. They wanted to know, what bacteria lived in the ancient human gut? What they found: over the past 1,000 years, the human gut has gone through what the lead researcher literally called an extinction event. Dozens of bacterial species that used to live in the human gut are just gone. Not rare, gone. One example, a bacteria genus called Treponema. It showed up in every single ancient sample, across completely different sites hundreds of miles apart. Today, it's almost never found in anyone living an industrialized lifestyle, only occasionally in people who still live non-industrial lives. Here's the unsettling part. When they sequenced everything they found, 39% of the bacterial genomes recovered had never been seen in any human, living or dead, ever documented before. Nearly 4 in 10 of your ancestors' gut bacteria are things modern science has literally never cataloged in a living person. So if you sat an ancient human down at your dinner table, the food might not be what shocks him most. It might be that his gut is doing something biologically that yours simply can't do anymore. Not because you're unhealthy, but because entire species of bacteria that used to live in every human on Earth just aren't available to you anymore. They're not somewhere else. They're not in a health food store. They're extinct in the modern human population. That's not a lifestyle problem. That's a permanent biological loss. Number 7. There was no single ancient human diet. Now you might assume ancient diet means one uniform thing, everyone eating the same simple natural way. That's actually false. And there's a great case study that proves it. On Vieques Island, off Puerto Rico, 2 ancient cultures, the Huecoid and the Saladoid, lived in close proximity, possibly even peacefully coexisting for over 1,000 years. When scientists analyzed coprolites from both groups, they found their gut microbiomes were distinct enough to tell the 2 cultures apart just from bacteria and fungus DNA alone. One culture's waste was dominated by maize and mushroom DNA. The other's was dominated by parasites specifically associated with eating raw fish. 2 neighboring ancient societies. Same island, same climate, same available land. Completely different guts, because of completely different food traditions. The takeaway: ancient human diet was never one universal diet. It was hyper-local, shaped by culture as much as by geography. If you brought multiple ancient humans to look at the American diet, they wouldn't all react the same way, because they didn't all eat the same way to begin with. Some would recognize almost nothing. Others might recognize more than you'd expect. Number 6. One ancient gut looked nothing like ours. Here's one more, because it's too strange to leave out. Scientists examined the preserved gut of an 11th century Andean mummy and found that a single bacterial genus, Clostridium, made up over 96% of the entire microbial population in that mummy's colon. In the paleofeces sample specifically, one type of bacteria called Turrisibacter made up nearly 90% on its own. To put that in perspective, no healthy modern human gut looks anything close to that. Not even people living the most ancestral lifestyles researchers study today. A modern gut, even a good one, is a diverse ecosystem of hundreds of species living in relative balance. This mummy's gut looked almost like a single species monoculture. Scientists still aren't fully sure why. Natural mummification itself may have skewed which bacteria survived to be detectable versus which ones simply decomposed. But it's a reminder, even our best ancient human data comes with asterisks. We're not looking at a perfect photograph of the past. We're looking at whatever the ground, the ice, or the desert happen to preserve. Last one, and this one isn't about diet at all. It's about a controversy scientists got tangled up in just from doing this research in the first place. Stay through this last part. It changes how you should think about everything I just told. Number 5. Even ancient poop can be controversial. When that extinction event gut bacteria study came out, it wasn't just celebrated in the science world. It also sparked a real ethical debate. The coprolite samples almost certainly came from indigenous populations. And while feces aren't legally classified as human remains under US law, some tribal communities were upset that they weren't consulted early enough in the process, since these samples are direct links to their actual ancestors. I'm including this because most content on this topic treats ancient humans like a prop, a fun thought experiment, a caveman reacting to a Big Mac. But the ancient humans in this video were real people, and in some cases their modern descendants are still here with real opinions about how their ancestors' remains get studied. It's a good reminder that ancient human isn't just a meme format, it's history that's still connected to people alive right now. So back to our imaginary time traveler in the snack aisle. Would he be shocked by the sugar? Probably a little. But the deeper shock isn't what's on the shelf, it's what's missing from you. Entire species of gut bacteria gone for good. A relationship with heat and fat and preservation that's been completely rewritten by industrial food science. And a reminder that how ancient humans ate was never one simple answer. It was hundreds of different answers, shaped by hundreds of different cultures, most of which we're still piecing together from literal fossilized poop. If this kind of deep dive is your thing, I've got a whole series planned digging into the stuff typical diet content skips, starting with what ancient dental plaque reveals about hidden ancient junk food. Subscribe so you don't miss it, and drop a comment. Which one of these 6 facts surprised you the most? I read every one.